Surprise! We have ended up with a bonus video, and that is because after the incident last month with our Scrawler boxes arriving late, mine has arrived the day after it was shipped out. I did intend on including the unboxing of this month's Scrawler box as part of the 12 days of Cavemas, which starts tomorrow. But I thought I would just squeeze it in and it gives everybody an extra video. After all, it is the festive period. So it seems that our problems with shipping have been rectified, which is absolutely fab. For those of you who are unfamiliar with them, Scrawlrbox is a UK based monthly subscription art supply box that they send out in the post to you. And it is basically a surprise box of arty goodies, and they also include a prompt for you to inspire you to use what's in the box and create some lovely art. So I am just going to grab the box and we can get going. Right, let's get cracked into this bad boy. I do have a tipple this evening. This is Jack Daniel's, but it's not Jack Daniel's in the ordinary sense. It is Jack Daniel's Fire, which is a cinnamon variety they bring out in the UK around about Christmas, and I absolutely love it. It is my favourite festive tipple, and I am feeling festive. Okay, so as per usual, we will have our regular items, and the first of that is our featured artist. Oh, this is quite cute, isn't it? That's quite pretty. Our featured artist is Anne Pellegrino. She is a freelance graphic designer from South New York State. And here are her Instagram, Facebook, etc., all her social media, so you can check out some of her other art. That's very cheerful, I quite like that. I was kind of hoping for a festive themed box, but never mind. We always have some paper as well every month in our Scrawler box. We have our list of supplies, which also has our prompt on, but we'll put that to the side just now. Oh, this is interesting. Our sweet, which is a glacier fruit. Oh, these are good as well. I quite like these, so I'll save that for later. All right, let's see what we've got. Oh, we have our Scrawler box sticker. Oh, we're back to a standard Scrawler box sticker this month. That's disappointing. We have Friction Light Soft pens. This is an erasable highlighter. Okay. And there are 5 different colours, all in lovely pastel shades. Oh, what is this? Draw every day. Make this your New Year's resolution. As we come to the end of the year, we wanted to include another little extra from our featured artist to help inspire your next year of creativity. Maybe you could make this your resolution for 2019. That's quite cute as well. I think I'm going to pin that up somewhere. We have a black Sharpie, and this is a fine point one. I'm pretty sure I've got about 9 million of these that float about my house anyway, so that's another one for Mr. Jem when we're finished with the prompt. Oh, a Pentel paint marker in Super Silver, and it says an extra fine point. Uh-oh. Plastic. Let's take the plastic off first, Jem. Try and do this without cutting myself. Oh, that has got quite a fine tip on it for a... Can you see that? Oh, this is cow poo. Can you tell I've been out working on the farm this afternoon? It says on this label here that you have to store it with a nib pointing upwards, so that's good to know. What else have we got? We've got more pens. A Pilot Friction Ball. I think these are the erasable ones. I'm pretty sure. Yeah, this knobbly bobbly bit on the end is like the eraser. I've seen these. I've never used one, but I have seen them. Does it say anything about the point size on this? 0.7. It's actually quite a funky looking pen. Quite like that. And another Sharpie, an ultra fine point. I don't have any of these. So that's a sort of similar size point to the Friction pen, I think. They're about roughly the same size. It doesn't actually tell you the size, it just says it's an ultra fine point. And we have some paper as well. It looks like quite a lot of paper actually. 1, 2, 3 sheets of paper, and it all looks very similar, and it's quite heavy. This month we are challenging you to experiment with the features of the supplies included and see how erasable and permanent can work together to create different effects and textures. Sketching an erasable pen, inking over impermanent and then adding colour and texture. Use your erasing to give definition to your shading or highlights. We suggest using one of the sheets of paper included to create a sample page exploring the supplies and how they work on their own and together. What happens when you put one on top of the other? Well, we're kind of going to do that anyway because this is an unboxing video. Okay, so the Pilot Friction Ball Medium is the original erasable pen from Pilot. Okay, use the special eraser tip to make the ink disappear like magic. I'm always a bit suspicious of erasable pens and ink that, you know, is supposed to be erasable. Okay, the unique gel ink responds to the heat generated by the friction and lets you draw over it again instantly. Okay. The light soft erasable highlighters, so they have erasers at the end of them as well, just like the ball pen. Yeah, so they've got this same part on the end. Oh look, all matchy matchy. They've got the patterns on them as well. How nice. But yeah, so it does look like a highlighter in that it's got a chisel tip on it. Oh, this is quite exciting. Sharpie fine permanent marker, yeah, blah blah blah, permanently marks. Ultra fine is the same thing except it's got a smaller point, kind of makes sense. Do your line work before colouring as this will smudge slightly when erasing if on top of the friction ink. Oh, okay. The Pentel paint marker, so this is the silver one, provides the ability to add small metallic details and highlights to your work. The aluminium barrel contains the opaque silver ink, which is also permanent once dry. Norfolk cartridge paper, 210 GSM, classic cartridge paper, suitable for most drawing techniques, and the study weight means it can withstand heavy erasing. Okay, so the Scrawlrchallenge is pastel petals. Pastel petals. So if we look back at our featured artist, she has indeed got some pastel petal. Well, has she got pastel petals? She's got pastel leaves. So that is the prompt. We have lots of paper. We have 3 sheets of paper, which is great. So that means that we can test out some of these supplies on the actual paper that we're going to use for the Scrawlrchallenge. So let's start with the little Sharpie. The first thing I notice about this pen on this paper is that it is bleeding slightly. I think if you don't press as heavily, it's not as bad. Can you see it on the writing? It is bleeding out a little bit. That's quite an important thing to note, and it's not ideal if you're going to use it to outline your drawings on this paper, because I say it seems to be feathering slightly. That is not the fine point. See, this is because I've been drinking. That's the ultra fine point. Yeah, I don't like that at all. That's not good. One thing I will say is about the ultra fine point is you don't get the same smell off it that you get off of the larger one. It's very familiar. There's not really much to say about this pen other than it's just if you're not familiar with Sharpie markers, it's just a permanent marker with a sort of finer point on it than your usual sort of clumsy chisel nibs, but there isn't really a lot to say about it, honestly. It's got quite a firm nib, so you do have a degree of control over it in terms of actually using it, but other than that, it's just a black permanent marker. Okay, so let's try the Pilot Friction. Oh. Okay, that is very wishy-washy for excuse me, for black. It's actually more grey than black, which is interesting. So let's test out the... I don't know if I've got to wait till it dries. Okay, it really does erase. Look at that, wow. I'm impressed with that. You do have to kind of rub at it a little bit, but they did say it's the heat that does it rather than the rubbing itself. It seems to be flowing slightly better now that I've started using it. It's quite a dry pen though, but again, I kind of thought that would be the case with it, you know, being erasable. So let's try that. That's it wet, and it's still erasing pretty well. I'm pressing quite hard and going back and forth. That's kind of cool though. I kind of like that. So I'm hoping we're going to have the same degree of success with the highlighters. Please be pretty. Oh, again, it goes down on the paper really funny. Can you see the streaks there? I'll maybe let it dry a little bit. But the chisel tip on this is quite nice, and you can get varying line widths depending on, you know, what side of the chisel you want to use. You can get great big sweeping strokes. Again, for a highlighter, it feels quite dry. But that is a really nice colour. I thought the colours might be a bit kind of wishy-washy. This one isn't the best to see on camera. That's still quite wet. Oh no, there we go. So when you're erasing these, you do have to sort of give it a minute to get going. You have to keep going until the heat builds up from the friction. Yeah, my only concern about this is that these highlighters aren't sitting particularly well on this paper. Oh, can you see this, how sort of washed out it looks? I'm just wondering if we were to try it on some other paper. I'm going to grab my sketchbook, I think. I have a little tester page in the back of my sketchbook. You can see I've tested out various bits and pieces. Just out of curiosity, oh, it's worse on that. My sketchbook paper is quite textured. The ink seems to sit on top of the paper for a long time before it dries. And there's a lot of fibre coming off of the nib of the... Can you see those little dark bits there? That's actually fibres off the chisel nib. The distribution of the ink seems to be better on this paper. So it's much more, if I take off these little bits, it is much more even in comparison to the paper that's provided in the Scrawlrbox. So it may just be temperamental in terms of the paper. So while we're here, I'm just going to try and erase it on my sketchbook paper, and that's erasing no problem. So that's good to know. So this paper, although obviously they've given us an all-rounder paper because there's different types of, you know, they've given us different types of pens, this just maybe isn't particularly well suited to these highlighters. So you might have to choose a bit more carefully. I'm excited about the green. Some of you know green is my favourite colour. It's almost like trying to put a highlighter down on glossy paper. That's what it feels like, you know, you can feel it kind of sliding about on top of the paper. There are an awful lot of bits coming off them, I don't like that much. So again, this is wet, and as you can see, it still erases even if the ink hasn't dried properly, it will still erase. That's quite impressive, and I really like that feature, and that is a lovely shade of green. Pink. Not a huge fan of pink. The colours are quite vibrant, and again for highlighters you would kind of hope that would be the case, but I'm sure all of you have tried various highlighters in your lifetime and it is not always the way of it. It's funny because when you start trying to erase this, you think it's not going to erase, you're like, nah, this isn't happening. But once you get going, as I said, it's actually pretty good. Again, the purple's nice, but it's not really purple, is it? It's lilac or lavender. There we go. So the last thing that we haven't tested out is this pen, the Pentel. Now I wonder if this is one, yeah, this is, but being a paint pen, you've got to depress the nib, and that's what will bring the paint flow down. So I usually end up flooding the paper because I'm too impatient. Oh, there we go. Oh, that is quite metallic. It feels a bit scratchy. But it's one of these ones where these pens normally do. If you don't press very hard though, it's not as bad. And the flow of the ink to the actual nib seems quite good as well. Yeah, no, I quite like that. That's quite nice. And as you can see, with the reflection from the light, it is very, very metallic, which is kind of good as well. So let's try a bit of layering. Let's start with something that I think obviously isn't going to work. So I'm going to put down some Sharpie first. These are highlighters. They are not going to show up on the top of the Sharpie marker, which I think was a given really. And there's no point in using the black friction pen, really. And you can see it very slightly. But if we use the Pentel silver pen, that's going to show up no problem because it's paint on top of the permanent marker, so that's pretty good. Now let's try, and I'm just going to put down some of this paint pen first, and I'm going to let it dry, so we'll come back to it in a little minute. Just let that do its thing. I'll just do a block of this colour. I really don't like the way these pens are going down on this paper, but hey ho. We have the other friction pen. Now, in theory, that should erase because they're both the same types of pen and it's the same type of ink, and that it's supposed to erase with friction. If I erase a line through both of those, it should take away all of the ink, so we'll try that out. So that goes down fine on top of the highlighter. The Sharpie marker should go down because it's alcohol based and it's permanent, and that seems to be okay as well. And let's see what the silver's going to do on top of it. Again, that's sitting on top of it really nicely, and again, just because of the way the light is, you can see that it pops out quite well as well. So I wonder what happens if we layer some of the highlighters. Again, I'll just put a little bit of this down, try it out. It's an interesting experiment. I wonder if they mix. I'll maybe let that dry. See if my paint pen's dry. Oh no, not dry. Not dry. Cheers. A good time to have a swig. So the permanent marker should go down on top of the... now it doesn't do well on top of the paint pen. Okay, so Sharpie does not go down on top of the silver. And I'm assuming that the highlighter won't do much either. Oh, look. Oh no. I may have ruined this pen. No, there we go, it's come off again. Right, that's fine, that's good to know. That's made quite an interesting gradient though, hasn't it? I don't recommend that though, because I think you probably wreck the tip of your highlighter doing that. Let's try and scroll. It's still coming off. Oh dear. Ruined it already, and I've not even drawn anything yet. Okay, let's try layering these coloured highlighters and see what happens. Yeah, it's just given kind of like a really muddy colour, although I suppose you could mix them. Like, let's try the yellow and the green. I really like this green, it's so pretty. Now I'm going to try and erase through the black friction pen and the highlighter and see what happens. And as expected, it's taken everything away, so that's good to know. There is a slight shadow of the black friction pen. You can just see that and no more. I don't know if I keep going, maybe it will take it. It is lightening up. It's not disappeared completely, but it has lightened up quite significantly. So once again, that is good to know. Yeah, I don't think layering these highlighters is up to much either. Oh no, it's actually pilling the paper. Okay, and again, I've got the same thing. If you look at the tip there, it's actually pulled off all of the colour underneath and it's stuck to my chisel nib. And it's come off in a great big lump. Tasty. The last little test that I want to do is just to try and erase through these two lots of colour. Ooh. And again, that's just coming up perfectly. So these pens do erase, and these are the first set of inks that I've ever had that you can't actually erase properly. Granted, you have to use the tip that's provided, but that's absolutely fine because it's attached to the pen, so I'm pretty sure we can do something with this. So having a little think about the Scrawlrchallenge and what we might... Oh look, I've made a smudge. Oh look, I can erase it. Ta-da! The challenge is pastel petals, so that kind of just conjures up all the usual kind of things that you would do. You know, you're thinking flowers and all these kinds of things. But in some way I would like to incorporate the use of the eraser. So, you know, maybe you could, obviously this is very basic, just while I'm having a think about it. But you could incorporate some sort of pattern into your pastel petals by, you know, using that eraser just to take chunks out. That would work quite well. Something that's kind of like makes me want to do sort of flowy lines for some reason. Because again, you can use the way that these pens are going down on the paper, you can actually use that to your advantage to create texture and movement by leaving the lines. I have a puppy nudging me. Hey Pip. I'm a person that likes texture, so I could definitely use this in some way and try and incorporate some sort of petal. Obviously we've got the pastel thing covered because the highlighters are pastel, but I don't know, I feel like it needs to be more than that. I'm like leaning towards not going for the obvious now, just having had a little bit of experience with these Scrawler challenges and being a bit more confident with my drawing. And also as well, we need to incorporate the silver into it somehow. But again, you could use that because it goes over the top of everything, including the Sharpie marker. You know that you've got so many options with that. So there's lots of things that you could play with there. I will have to have a think about it, and I'm tempted to not go for the obvious, but as per usual, I will do the Scrawler challenge in a separate video. So I just wanted to have a little bit of a play about with some ideas for our prompt. The first thing that springs to mind is, I can't remember the woman's name, but she used to, I'm assuming she still does, photographs of babies dressed up, and some of them were like sitting in flower pots and stuff. You know, so you could have a, you know, a little you know, baby face with big massive petals. The thing that's bugging me is the use of the pastels is going to be absolutely fine, but it's where do you put the silver? I mean, you could use it for highlights on the Sharpies. The other option is just to draw an actual, you know, flower, like really close up, and have this sort of idea. And you could have then a black background, or you could go a bit more the way the featured artist has gone and do a sort of abstract pattern type thing with some petals, and you could maybe have a black background and use some silver round the border. It looks a bit creepy, doesn't it? There's only so many interpretations of petals, isn't there? I mean, petals are part of flowers. There's not much else you can say to that, really. Your other option is to start into, you know, some sort of character that's maybe, I don't know, maybe holding like a posy of flowers. But then you could, well, that might work actually, because you could use your pastel colours on the petals. Oh, that doesn't go so well with graphite. That's interesting. A black background. I'm not going to do it with my Sharpie because I'm in my sketchbook and it'll bleed through, and I like to use all my pages, but you get the idea. So you would have black all around here. You could leave the character skin white, and then it's back to using this silver, though I'm not entirely sure. Or you could have the character in black, and you could use the silver pen to to put in the features. That could work as well. Give them a little, you know, a nice dress or something on. That could work also. Yeah, so maybe let's explore that a little bit more. So if you had your character, give her a ponytail, make it a girl. You could have her holding her posy of flowers. Let's just give her a V-neck just now. And you could have, you've got 5 pastel pens, so you could, yeah, so you could use the black for her and have your outline of your posy, and then you could colour her all in black. So do her hair and absolutely everything. Keep the posies in the pastel, and then use your silver pen, as I said, to outline her features, and use that for highlights. That would give you your pastel highlighters to do your posy and something in the background to make it pop out. That might be an option. That sounds like a really good idea. I'm quite tempted to go back to the big flower design as well, which I have smudged already. Great stuff. But that's some ideas as well. So if you're thinking about doing the Scrawler challenge, I hope that's maybe helped you out as well. Okay, so let's have our quick recap now of everything that has come in our Scrawlrbox. We have 3 sheets of cartridge paper, one of which I have used to test out the supplies. We have this really cute New Year's resolution card that's done by the artist, which I just absolutely love, and I'm going to pin that up somewhere. The featured artist with all of their social media on the back. We have the silver Pentel paint marker pen, our Scrawlrbox sticker, our Glacier Mints Sweet, the Friction pastel highlighters, and there are 5 different colours of those. We have the Sharpie Ultra Fine Point permanent marker, the Friction Black ballpoint, a standard fine point Sharpie marker as well, along with our list of supplies and our Scrawler challenge. And that is our Scrawlrbox for the month of December. Thanks so much for watching, guys. I hope you've enjoyed the video. Feel free to smash that like button and subscribe if you haven't done already. You can also check out some of my other videos here, and hopefully I will see you all tomorrow for the first day of Cavemas. Have a good day, guys, and happy holidays.